I think we are ready for our speaker. I'm going to introduce Jim, who's going to introduce Deedee Morgan here. So up to you, Jim. I think you have to stand so that might be good too.
Okay, good morning. Deedee has been, this is the third time Deedee has been here. First time was when we were at the Edgewater, when she spoke about her job as the superintendent of Oak Hill prison system. And then just, well, I think it was last fall, she spoke to us about her activities in Tunisia with a prison system. So today, she's going to speak to us about her consultation with the Saudi Arabian women's prison system. And she doesn't let a whole lot of grass grow under her feet. Starting in May, she's going to be the Director of Human Resources for United Way. And here's Deedee.
Wow, thank you. I'm gonna come here more often. Do I need the microphone? Do I have to use it?
It would help.
Okay,
It's preferred.
okay.
So we can hear you.
Okay,
We gotta get car.
you see my dilemma, right? Because I think I'm gonna get a clicker too. I really do have a big voice. Oh, on Zoom, got it, okay.
No, this picks up Zoom pretty easily. Zoom is good.
Well, while she's setting up the presentation, a couple of things. I'm Deedee Morgan, as Jim Patch said, and I met Jim when I was the Human Resources Director at Stoughton Schools. I was there for 2 years. So we know each other quite a few years, and really enjoyed working with him. And Corky, her husband, helped Jim and I work better together. We were working on contract negotiation. So recently, I was in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is they call KSA. You know how we say the United States of America, the USA. It took me a while to get used to having people say KSA. But the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has spent 3.5 months there training the women, some of the women who work in the women's prison system. And just to give you, oh, there we go. Here we go.
You can bring this one over, Richard.
So just a little bit about my background, and I'm not going to go over all of it, but I started working for the Department of Corrections on my 23rd birthday, and I worked for them for 33 years. During that time period, I left corrections twice and went back. I worked at the Department of Transportation for 10 months, and then I went and worked at the Department of Justice for about a hot minute, maybe 15 minutes. I think I was there 2 months maybe. And then while I was at the Department of Justice, I was the Director of Communications and Public Policy for then Attorney General was Peg Lattenschlager. The opening for the warden's position at Oak Hill Correctional Institution opened up. And I lived in Verona for 25 years. My husband and I recently moved from there. But I was only 8 miles from Oak Hill, and so when that prison opened up, I was really interested in becoming the warden there. So I was at Oak Hill for 8 years, and then I went to become the Deputy Secretary for the Department of Corrections for 3.5 years, and that was under Governor Walker. In my career, I have worked for 3 governors. The first governor was Scott McCallum. He appointed me as the chair of the Wisconsin Parole Board, which I was there for 1.5 years. And then Jim Doyle came in, and Governor Walker, Scott McCallum. Did I say Scott McCallum? Okay, good, because sometimes my brain doesn't work right. That was an appointed position. Then Governor Doyle came in, and he appointed Matt Frank to be the Secretary of the Department of Corrections, and Secretary Frank appointed me to be what was then called the Executive Assistant. It's now called the Assistant Deputy Secretary, which is the third in command for the Department of Corrections. And then, a new administration came in. So then I became the warden while Governor Doyle was at Oak Hill. I became, while Governor Doyle was governor, I became, yeah. So he never visited Oak Hill. He did visit many prisons. And then when Governor Walker came in, I became the deputy secretary for the Department of Corrections. So my career is primarily prisons. So now we're up and running. So this is the work that we do with the State Department. So I work for a private company who the State Department sends out a contract and says, we need people to come and do training in guns and gas, or we need people to do bomb training, or we need people to do prison training. So I'm on the prison side of the house. And it's usually funded by the Department of State, the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement, which is their logo on the bottom left, our American flag, and then the Saudi Arabia flag. This is a very unique circumstance. So when I was in Tunisia for 2 years, I came to Tunisia and the American government came with money and said to Tunisia, we're going to have our subject matter expert do an evaluation of what your prison system needs to make it, to implement best practices and to bring it into pretty much the 21st century. And that didn't, that setup is how it is almost around the world, that the American government comes in with money, and not only do we tell them what to do and evaluate what they need, but we follow up and determine if they're actually doing that. So one of the things that we implemented is a classification system, so that you have prisoners who are like in their crimes or like in their behavior, similar in their crimes and their behavior, that they're housed together. So you don't want to take somebody who's in for a financial crime and put them in prison with somebody who's, let's say, a serial killer. That's not a very good relationship, with the one exception. Yeah, with the one exception, that your financial crimes person, their behavior is so disruptive and so bad that they need to be sitting in a maximum security prison. So now they're in that situation because of their behavior, not because of their crime. And that's how you get that intermixing of people who are low-level offenders with serious offenders. The behavior becomes effective. So that's one of the things that we, some of the things that we do when we go in and do training. And again, we come as the American, with the experts, with the budget. With Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it's a very unique situation because it's a very wealthy country. So what Saudi Arabia does is says, American government, we want you to bring subject matter experts to teach us the best practices in the women's prison system. Here's the money, and we just need you to bring the people. And then they decide what the training will be, and they tell us when we're going to do it. The idea of us going in and looking at the prison system and saying, you need to implement this, or we're going to shore up on that. We want to, we want to look at prison industry, so your inmates have work opportunities. We do not get that opportunity. The King of Saudi Arabia says, here's the money, we want you to train on, fill in the blank, and do it. So it was a very different relationship, and it was a very, we were walking on eggshells the entire time because they're a very proud government, and they feel like anybody who comes in is going to judge them. So if we asked questions about their prison system, they would become defensive, and to the point that there were people who had been working on this training for 3 years. I did the last 3.5 months. This thing started 3 years ago, and a number of them were no longer there. They sent it home because our default is to say, "Hi, my name is Deedee Morgan. How do you run your prison?" And they go, "None of your business. You're going to teach us about classification, emergency management, prisoner escort. You can't ask that one question," and then somebody would do an evaluation and decide to shoot one of the trainers home. So they ran through a lot of trainers. So that relationship with the Saudi government was very interesting. Don't get me wrong, I really, really enjoyed the people that I worked with, but it was just not anything that I had ever experienced before. Because I worked internationally in Armenia, the Republic of Georgia, Tunisia, some other countries, and it's always been that exchange of how do you do it? How do we do it? And they weren't, not only were we not allowed to ask those questions, but their staff has been trained pretty much that you're not to share any other information as well. So it was very interesting. So with that said, lots of rules, one of which is we were not allowed to take pictures. The other one is we are of anybody, and the other one is we did not get to see the prison. So if I remember the last time I was in Tunisia, I came with lots of data, right? This is how many prisoners they had, you know, and I even thought that I didn't have a lot of data coming from Tunisia because they were very similarly situated. Their governments were really tight, unlike our government where, you know, we have the Bureau of Justice Statistics and we have all, you know, we have all these areas that we have to report to. You just type into the internet and you go, how many prisoners are in the state of Wisconsin? Blah, 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 blah. And then you say, well, how many sex offenders? You know, you can mine the system and get that information. You can't get that in most other countries. They're pretty secretive about what they're gonna do. And so it was even more restrictive. So the first thing they told us when we got off before we went to, got on the plane was, you may not take pictures. And if you do, that is in your law, you know, that could be a problem. Yet there were times when we would be walking on the diplomatic quarters, which I'll explain later, where you'd hear that camera, and somebody took a picture of us. But we were not allowed to take a picture of them. So, and it's in their country's rules. They literally have it in the rules. So let me move on. This is Kuma on the left, and that's me on the right. And Kuma is a retired federal bureau prison warden. She and I went there together. They had us fly into, I went to Chicago. She came from Colorado. So she flew from Colorado to Chicago. And then we flew over to Saudi Arabia. So we got to spend some time together on the plane. I had a 6-hour layover. They'd be very angry. Kuma had a 2-hour layover. So the pictures you're gonna see are just kind of my experience there. It's not gonna be that data or to show you what was going on in the prison system. So Kuma and I had a wonderful time. I was so fortunate to have her with me. This is a map of Saudi Arabia, and we were located in the capital city, which is Riyadh, which is right here. So you see that Jordan, Egypt, Yemen, Eritrea, Sudan, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Iran, Kuwait, and Iraq. And what's interesting about Saudi Arabia is I thought that the United States was the melting pot. You know, everyone says it's a melting pot. You have all these people from all over the world come to the United States. So not true. I think that Saudi Arabia is the melting pot. And the reason I say that is because pretty much everyone we came into contact with in Saudi Arabia who provided services to us are the people who drove us around, the people who worked in restaurants. All of those service industry providers are from other countries. So it was very interesting to be in Saudi Arabia, kind of post-COVID. I know we're still working in COVID, but Saudi Arabia is a country that's extremely wealthy. About 20% of the population lives in poverty, which is a different kind of poverty than what we have here. But it is very, very wealthy, and anybody who does any services is not likely to be a Saudi individual. So it has a very strong kind of class system. But then COVID hit, and those essential responsibilities that keep your communities going are the people who continue to work, right? And then if they're getting paid, they took their money and they shot it to all of those countries. They shot it out of Saudi Arabia. So it was an eye-opener to the Saudi government that, you know, they're having financial issues in their country because the people who are making money are sending their money back to these other countries. So they enacted a 14% sales tax on everything, which they had not had before. And so there's a lot of tension financially there because of that. But the other thing that the Saudi government is working very hard to do is those service jobs that are done by people from other countries, they're trying to get Saudis to go to work. Most Saudis receive a stipend from the oil reserves. And so they're trying to get those Saudis to go to work so that the money stays in Saudi Arabia. And they're trying to get rid of that 14% tax. So as a result, those people who work are starting to be displaced. They're trying to, so we had a situation where we have, in our unit, we had 2 interpreters because none of us speak Arabic. So then 2 interpreters worked for us, and we were doing a 114 foreign embassy on the diplomatic quarters. And the diplomatic quarters is almost 2,000 acres. So it's in kind of the southwest part of the city, and it's just this big, huge concrete wall with razor wire around it. And you can Google it. There's a map of it. It's got some of the best biking and running trails and parks in the country of Saudi Arabia. So when 9/11 happened, they realized that foreign governments, particularly the American government, was a target. Prior to 9/11, that concrete wall and razor wire didn't exist. But the diplomatic quarters has these great apartments. A lot of the royal family lives on the diplomatic quarters, and the reason is because it's kind of westernized. So I don't normally dress like this, but this is what is known as Nevada. So the women of Saudi Arabia, we are Muslim, the whole country is Muslim, and most of them cover, which is called a burqa. So they cover from head to toe, to the point of even, they'll have just their eyes showing. So a lot of the women even wore a thin veil that went over that. But the lowest, the least amount of covering they don't have to do, but they prefer that they do, is what's called the sabaya. Up until about 3 years ago, women had to be covered completely. And in the last few years, the Saudi prince wanted to bring in more tourism, open up Saudi, modernize it more. And so he ruled that women do not have to completely cover. And this is the transition that's going. So these come with snaps. And so when we first said women don't have to cover, they were completely covered, and then including their face, and then when we started taking the veil off and just showing their eyes with everything else covered, and now some of them don't cover their hair any longer, and now this is the point for the bias grows. And so it's when we got off the plane, we had to purchase a bias here in the United States to get off the plane and wear a bias. They really don't expect Americans to wear a bias. It's not part of their laws that you wear a bias, but if you don't have a bias on, and you're not on the diplomatic quarters, you're out in the rest of the community, you really get that look of shame, the look from up and down, all around. So I purchased 3 abayas when I got there. I had 1 and 3 more, and this is one of them right now. I really, really like it. This is the kind of thing that I would normally wear, something, over, because I like to keep, I work in the prison system, so I always cover this part of my, the backside of my body. And I really enjoyed the abaya in the beginning, but by the time I was ready to leave, I really struggled with it, because you always have to have hands free. If you're going to walk up steps, you got to be able to pick this up, or you're going to step on it. So over time, over the 3.5 months that I was there, I was starting to feel a little bit like I was choking, just like some of the restrictiveness that goes on in the country. It's what's called built into your culture. So the Saudi family is considered the richest royal family in the world, and that's because of their oil. This is, and I remember I don't have pictures of the prison system, and I sort of don't have pictures of people because you're not supposed to do it, but we took, sneaky, took some pictures. This is a picture of the very first restaurant we ate at. We had been there for 2 days. It was authentic Saudi food. It was called Naj Village. And, as you can see, we're sitting on the floor. The woman up in the corner is my boss, Faye Spencer. She's one of the people who was sent home. And, they serve the food on the floor. This restaurant, like many restaurants, men and women eat separately. And then there's a whole other section for families to eat in. So if you walk in the door and the men sit over here, if you're just a group of men, and then the women, and they can't see each other, there would be a wall here, and the women would sit over here, and usually it's women and families. Now boys can be with the women and families, but when they get to be a certain age, like maybe 15, 16, they're on the other side. The other thing is when you're in a restaurant, they will, those restaurants that don't have those dividers, because again, they're kind of modernized, they will actually bring a movable wall. So the woman's there to be with her family, and they will put her in a spot that they can then put the wall up around her so she can put the veil off and she can be in that routine. And that's the personal choice that she might have, But when we have had a chance to sort of kind of have a candid conversation with some of our colleagues that were willing to speak, a lot of women are forced into cover that are not interested in being covered. They want to get out there, but they're forced to be covered. This is a video. How can I make this video go?
It has to be in the PowerPoint.
It is in the PowerPoint. I was able to play it when I was at home.
Maybe running off of this one? Yeah. Let's see if I can find the,
Okay. So we arrived, and within about 4 days of arriving, the Minister of Interior, who heads up basically the military or the defense part of their government.
That's not what I wanted
Put on this one day, took us off to the desert for a day, and showed us Saudi culture. The timing was just right. We arrived, and they're having this big huge there.
Look at those beautiful horses. Oh,
That's
the video I have to send to my husband.
she is.
Where's he going? Where's he going? Oh, just the slightest pressure of your legs. These horses know exactly what these men want them to do. Beautiful horses.
So when we pulled up, and by the way, when we pulled out of the headquarters to get to this 1.5-hour drive to the desert, they blocked off all the traffic coming both ways. So our buses that were going about 40 miles an hour for 2 hours could get in the remote desert. And it's like, the ambassador wasn't with us. It was just us people. There were 5 buses, but it's like they blocked off all the traffic, and they had squad cars, and lights, and it was. I only been there 4 days. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So they took us out to the desert. This was a huge deal. It was the first time they had taken the American government and the Saudi money run this presentation. They do everything really big. So it was really fun, and it was quite an honor to be treated that way. There were 5 buses, so.
Look at those beautiful.
I'm trying to, next one. So this is what's called a farwa. This little jacket, this long coat, which looks like a little bit like an abaya, only heavier. They do everything big in Saudi Arabia. They gave everybody who came on those buses one of these farwas. They won about 200 American dollars. And so it was a really big deal. But this guy who was Saudi, he looked like DJ Khaled to me. I don't know if anybody knows who DJ Khaled is. He's the DJ that, but he looked like DJ Khaled, so I walked up to him and said, "Hi, you look like DJ Khaled. You take this community with the real." So what I'm really showing here though is the farwa. And it's very cool in the desert at night. While I was there, we were there during their winter months. And it got down in the 40s at night, and then it would be up to 80s during the day. In the desert, though, it drops down to 30s. So that night, that was like within our first week of being there. So I was so grateful for the follow-up. But that is a traditional follow-up. Much like abayas, they make these, by the way, in many colors, with things flowing off them and scarves, and they're really cool. Same with follow-up. Because they're modernizing and wanting people to embrace that process, borrows come in many colors. You can have them made, custom made. They're quite beautiful. They become a fashion statement. This is still part of that day in the desert. And Saudi Arabia is a Muslim country, so they do not drink alcohol. I mean, this is a really big deal. Alcohol is very big deal. In the American Embassy, for anybody who's done foreign service, the American Embassy, when they send their people, when they send us to a foreign country and they put us in a hotel, even if it's in a country that does not serve alcohol, because countries want tourism, they've been there. So, for example, to me, they're Muslim countries, and most of the hotels there, as a matter of fact, almost all of them don't serve alcohol, but there are a few that are part of these hotels. That's when the American government is going to. They try their very best to get you a CBD, and they try their very best to get you an alcohol. That gets you alcohol because it's part of who we are as Americans. So one of the things that I thought was weird about this, you notice these are wine glasses. And every time we had a meal anywhere, there were wine glasses on the table, and we're in a country where they don't drink alcohol. So, I picked that picture up, but what is in those wine glasses is camel milk. It's warm. They milk that camel. Again, this is the Saudi government showing us part of their culture. They milked the camel, brought it out, and then filled wine glasses with milk, goat's milk, and gave it, and it was still warm, they gave it to us, so I drank goat's milk. I've also, or not goat's milk, I'm sorry, camel's milk. So I've had camel's milk now, and, but I just found it fascinating that they put it in wine glasses. It was quite fun, and they filled them quite high, and we're like, no, we'll share one, you know, and we just wanted a little sip, and they're like, we so this is the Ritz-Carlton, and I've never been to a Ritz-Carlton, but it was amazing. We went 3 times while I was there. And the reason I took this picture is 2 reasons. One, the Ritz-Carlton is where the Saudi prince puts his royal family when he wants to prison. Yeah, that's where they go. They go to the Ritz-Carlton. They don't, in general, they don't go to prison, but they do go to the Ritz-Carlton. So we went to the Ritz-Carlton, and they have steak night, and they have seafood night, and it costs a lot of money. It costs $130. That's steak night. So maybe ask me if I go out there for $100, I will. So we go to the Ritz-Carlton, we get out of the motor pool car, and somebody looks down and goes, oh my God, what is that? So that is a cockroach. Ritz-Carlton and a cockroach. Yep. I sent these 2 pictures home to my family and said the Ritz-Carlton has cockroaches. They're everywhere in the desert. This is a picture of me in the abaya that I brought here in the United States and took with me. And this is just the front of our classroom. I was able to get a picture of the classroom. I got permission to be able to do that. That abaya was useless. And the reason is because it was an abaya you pull over your head. So everywhere, every time I want to take off my abaya, I had to pull it on and off over my head. One time I just threw it on and I'm walking in the grocery store, looking at me, and then my colleague walked in and goes, you know, your abaya is inside out. No, I mean, what did I do? Just snap, you know, ball up and, you know, put into a corner. So this was the front of our classroom. This is interesting, country where they don't drink alcohol. This is called high tea, and this is one of the beautiful buildings of Saudi Arabia. Their buildings are exquisite. And we went to high tea, no alcohol, of course. But the reason that makes this so funny is because when you go to Saudi Arabia, and, you know, you live on the compound, you go to the American Embassy and buy your alcohol, it's affectionately referred to as tea. So on Wednesday, you can go to the embassy, if you have to be American, and you can buy tea. And when you buy this tea, they put it in a brown paper bag, tape it, put it in a yellow plastic bag, tape it, and then you step out of the dark room that you bought the tea in, and they bring a car over, and they put you in the car with tea, and they drive it to your apartment, and you take it out. You can't even walk it back to your apartment. You can't really do that and walk it back. They're just thrilled to give you a car. It's fascinating. But the other thing is, anything related to tea has to come back to the embassy and be disposed of in the embassy of the receptacle. So what happens is when you open that bottle of Jameson with a flip top, you need to save that flip top. You open that bottle of wine with the cork, you need to save that cork. You break a wine glass, you need to save it all, and you need to bring it back to the embassy and dispose of it in the embassy. You dispose of it in the regular garbage, which they fix in garbage, they are going to pull the Americans' privileges. But there is a ginormous underground world regarding tea. There was a guy from the United States who worked at the embassy who made $1.5 million in a very short period of time selling the tea that he bought at a markup rate. So now when you buy tea, you get a certain number of points, which correlate with a certain number of bottles each month. So it also makes it really difficult for you to deny how much tea you drink. Because you have to save it. So I'm like, fine, I'll just save all my bottles so I leave in 3.5 months. Not a pretty sight. I think I didn't know I drank that much, but it turns out I did. So this is Kuma, as you know, and this is Rebecca, who's one of the other trainers. And then this is just kind of the seating for high tea, and this is actually the kids' table that has, you know, food for the kids to eat. Outside this building, Saudi everything's gray or beige or tan or brown or cream or umber. Everything, the buildings, it all is embraced into the sand. So it's not a very pretty country to look at if you're flying on a plane, unless it's at night. You see those are all the lights, everything out in beautiful color. It's pretty cool. This is what's called Kingdom Center. And this picture that we're in is taken from right there, that line. The buildings there, you can see it's beautiful. Unfortunately, it's a hazy day there, but you see everything's just kind of gray and brown and tan. So these are a number of the women that were in our apartment. This is Kuma, of course, that's me. That's Faye, our supervisor. This is the woman who works for the embassy, who's responsible for all of the housing for all of the Americans that met quarters. And then this is my FBI friend. She's pretty, Nicole, she's pretty neat. While we were there, there was one of those drones that came over and got the bomb over Riyadh. And I remember I was in the bathroom blow drying my hair and I heard boom! And I turned off the blow dryer and what was that? And then, turn the blow dryer back on. Boom! And I did it like 3 times. So then finally I came out of my apartment, there's Nicole standing in the hallway who had lots of information. She's like, you guys, there's a bomb that was just dropped over. They intercepted it, but we need to go to the most inner, parts of our apartment. And what's interesting is this happens so often apparently in Saudi Arabia that when I text my family and said I'm okay, they're like, what happened? Whereas in Tunisia, it didn't happen that often there. And so when stuff like that happened, my family was texting me long before I texted that. But it felt like I was in a movie that I'm blow drying my hair and I turn it off and there's no sound and then I turn it back on and there's sound again. So, but I was so grateful to have Nicole there on the right because she had the inside information of what we needed to do. So Saudi Arabia, women can drive. It's only new in the last few years, but as a general rule, women don't drive, and I know why, because they don't want to. They're like, and Tunisia, they just didn't follow the rules of the road. They just be moseying along. And I always said that the lines of the road were decorative, not even suggestive. In Saudi, they're just really aggressive. I mean, they don't follow the rules of the road, but they'll just come up right next to you, they'll come behind you. It's a good thing nobody carries weapons there because there would be a lot of road rage. But I ride a motorcycle and I ride a Honda Goldwing, and these are Honda Goldwing. And with their permission, these guys let me take my picture with them. The reason I say Harley versus Honda is because the Saudis have a lot of money, so they really believe that Harley's the best. And I went to the Harley dealership and spent a chunk of change because I bought Harley t-shirts for myself and all the people that I ride with. But these Honda guys, I follow them over there. They were very, very sweet. So Harley versus Honda. And the Harley dealership, I don't know what it was about it, nothing really cologne, but my house still smells like the Harley dealership. Even after I washed the t-shirt, the cologne was it's a die for. So I did give permission to take a picture there with these guys on their Honda Goldwings. These are the Marines. So this is Christmas in Saudi Arabia. So yes, I was there for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I don't know if you know this, but all American embassies are guarded by the United States Marine Corps. So these are the Marines that were there at Christmas when you walked into the ambassador's residence. You were greeted by the Marines. So they took pictures with all of us. But this little guy, so they had Santa there, and I was getting my picture taken with Santa, and this little guy photobombed my picture, which I thought was the coolest thing. But what was also really cool is it is against the law to have Christmas or any Christian type decorations and displayed in Saudi Arabia. So of course this all happened on the diplomatic quarters again. That's 2,000 square feet or 2,000 miles of 2,000 acres. I'm sorry, that holds people of many nationalities, not just Americans. But there was an article that was I believe it was the New York Times, that's showing that businesses are starting to sell holiday decorations, and it's all under the I don't want to say the guise, but it's under the umbrella of the crown Prince wants to bring in more tourism, you have to embrace other cultures. But there is a whole market, underground market, on the DQ with the different quarters with the Americans, that when I left behind my Christmas decorations and somebody else would leave behind their Christmas decorations. Because it's not like in Tunisia, even though Tunisia is about the country, it's not against the law to have Christmas decorations. It's against the law in Saudi Arabia. So, you know, you have to be able to look that you have to bring them with you in the shipment as part of the government, or you have to find them at another place. But what was really interesting is they invited all of the people who work at the American Embassy, which would be Saudi nationals and other nationals and other Muslims. And I stood there for a half hour and took pictures of people, Muslims who had pictures of their children taken in Santa Claus. They just were really, you know, this is a government that's a little out of touch with people. They're really ready to embrace some of that Western stuff. And it's not necessarily the Christianity, it's the giving and the presents that they're in the colors and the lights that they're fascinated by. This is, the reason I took this picture is my friend Faye, my boss, this woman here. This is her friend who's a psychologist, and this is her son and her son-in-law. This man is half American, half Saudi, and he was born actually in the United States, and he's one of the few people that I met who speaks Saudi and English without the accent, because he was born in America. So, and he gets all the idioms. I had no idea how cultural meant. I thought I did until I went to another country. But the reason I took this picture is this man is this man. And so even though the women in Saudi cover, so do the men. And this is what they wear. And so he walked into his apartment. We had dinner at their place. This is his mom. He walked in dressed as this, and 20 minutes later, he went into his shorts. And so when you're there, you're walking down the street, you see out the street, and you see all these people who are covered. And I don't know, it just made me feel like they weren't approachable. You know, as Americans, we dress in a way. And for those of you who have traveled across the country, you know when you're walking down the street in another country, you see an American, you just walk a certain way, you look a certain way, we bow our heads at each other a certain way. And when I was in Saudi, after being in Tunisia, where, you know, most people don't cover in Tunisia, and men definitely don't cover, it just had a very different feeling to see him arrive this way and then, you know, throw on his shorts. It's like seeing your teacher, you know, outside the school. But the other piece of this is a Muslim country. No alcohol. There's an underground. You know, we drink whiskey, we drink wine. If you look, there's wine on the table. We're at their house. I mean, really, the people of Saudi, most of them really want to loosen things up and enjoy life more. So this is one of the few times that I have a picture of our food. And the reason I have it is because she took a picture of us and she sent it to us. If I had taken a picture of her, I probably would be in a lot of trouble. This is a woman, it's Kuma on the left, and then this is Shuru. I tell people I know I saw you cover, because they are absolutely exquisitely gorgeous. I mean, she was not only beautiful to look at, but she was just one of the brightest women I've ever seen. And if they knew I had a picture of her in a uniform, they would be very angry. But this is somebody who comes to work every day. She covers with her abaya. She covers her hair. You see that her hair, she's got the hair, not just the beret, but all the rest of her hair is covered. And then she, underneath, when she walks into the classroom, she's got an army boots and a military uniform, and she, you know, it's just amazing. So this is the graduation day, and Sharuk was willing to share this picture with us. She's just one of the smartest women I know. Actually, this is the video. And then that's one of the other women. And you see they're fully covered. How do I advance to the next? There we go. This is the cake that we had at graduation. And then this is Kuma and I separating at Frankfurt Airport. She went back to Colorado and I came home, but we arrived as friends and we parted as a great experience. Thank you.
We have 1 or 2 minutes. Any?
Deedee, I worry the program that you presented to the people who work there. Did you feel it successful in the Day Express? be beneficial to them?
That's a really good question. See, I'm solving it. So we felt that the Scotties, their government was requesting this training so they could say that we're going to do this training. Because we don't have the ability to go back in and see if it's going to be implemented, we kind of in our hearts feel like, because in all the years that we've worked for service, what gets checked gets done. So we don't really know, we know that there are countries that are motivated, and it's hard to get them to implement and embrace a different process. So I don't know what it's going to look like for a country that is being monitored. One of the things we did was an emergency management situation. We had a crisis where, the event was we had a bus that crashed. And we spent 3 days working on this bus crash, from point A to point B, and you got inmates on it, and how do you, what do you do? How do you make sure they don't escape? And so we broke up into groups, and we had a group who was, incident command, they were the leaders, and then we had the tactical people, and even the logistics people who were going to get food. And every group just kept saying, we just call our boss and ask our boss what to do. Or we wait till our boss told us what to do. And so that was really hard to break them out. We spent 3 days like, okay, so your boss has said, can you give me some recommendations? And they go, no, we're just waiting for you to tell us what to do. And so it was really hard to work that process because we just weren't at that level because it's a dictatorship. So most people don't really think, for lack of a better term, they don't think in terms of problem solving and thinking at all. So it was just
wanted to do a good view, of the inside of their life.
Oh, I know it's interesting because you really don't get to see it, right?
Right.
It's
I
just
suppose when you walk,
yeah.
wow.
Oh, you should see these women. And by the way, in Tunisia, women wore the most beautiful footwear I've ever seen. I mean, high heel with bling. In Saudi, nope, tennis shoes. It was the weirdest thing. You'd see these women with these, walking down the street with the bling blowing, the abaya just moving with them. They had a scarf on, and everything was going, and then they had tennis shoes on. And there's a lot of money there. So I went to the shopping mall. I went to the mall, and I didn't buy anything because I'm kind of downside. And it was Louis Vuitton and Chanel. It's like they're walking around with all these designer Gucci gift bags and everything, and they're completely covered. It's like, who is looking at that? I don't get it. I couldn't understand it.
We're close to closing here. We're actually over. So thank you very much, Deedee. You saw events in the email I sent yesterday morning, so I'm not going to go over those. Any pertinent sharings that we need, Tom?
I think Penny and Cole, we're going to wild bingo game on over West.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Thursday night, Dick and Tyler Richland, who is our new member, and I were at the X Hours monthly meeting. And they basically put our group to shame on the outreach they do. They do a lot of things. There were some things that they passed around that are available to us. I didn't take notes and Dick didn't take notes, but I'll get a hold of them and I will put them in the semi-monthly newsletter that I send out. But one of the things they do on a regular basis is make meals at the Ronald McDonald House. And here at the Ronald McDonald House is made every night by a volunteer group. And they do this on a very regular basis and find it extremely rewarding. There were some other things, and I'll listen later.
So we will continue to push our integration of that group into our activities and partnering on things. I couldn't make it last Thursday, but I know Dolly wants to go sometime, but we'll need to keep pushing this, and this might be some real good outreach activities for this group to engage with them on. So thank you, Eileen and Dick, for going. I was actually up in Wausau for a conference with Dolly. So anything else? question, real short, you
I
said?
will prefer in the interest of time, meeting this one more interesting.
She was very interesting. Okay, we'll have a moment of reflection, so you can figure. Okay, very good. Thank you all.